What's going on, guys? Welcome back to F1 23 for My Team Career Mode Season 3, round number 14, the United States Grand Prix, the final sprint weekend of Season 3, and we're back in Texas for the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. So let's see how this one goes. We had a good race last time in Japan, getting our first win of the season after a pretty struggling first half of the season, and a little bit longer. We finally seem to be getting some form going. Alonso, our teammate, actually seems to be kind of going backwards a little bit, as we are now just adapting some parts coming up for next season, because powertrain and chassis, there will be regulation changes, so just adapting as many parts as we can here, just kind of focusing on the higher level, more expensive parts to start with, because they're going to cost more if we don't get to adapt them next season. So doing as much as we can there. We're also going to put another resource upgrade on our chassis department, because it gives us more resource points so that we can adapt more before the end of the season. This is how R&D looks. We're actually now second quickest. McLaren have just gone ahead of us, but it's still ridiculously close up the top there. Everybody pretty much fully upgraded now. I think Red Bull's still got a little bit to go. As you can see, they've made a little bit of a gain on us into this race, but it's all so close there. Everybody else seems to have plateaued. I don't really know why, because surely, you know, all those teams pretty much, especially the ones right down the bottom, should be able to improve more than that. Like AlphaTauri, for example, cannot be fully upgraded and be as far off pace and R&D as they are. So for whatever reason, you see it in the F1 games, they don't seem to always upgrade, they just stop upgrading. So hopefully, you know, next season, regulation change, it might kick them back into gear again, because I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to fully, you know, adapt all our parts, but we're going to get pretty close. We're going to be pretty decent, I think. And you know, if they don't adapt the parts or anything, and they don't start upgrading after this season, they're just going to be completely left in the dust. And I want to see other teams, you know, mixing it up in the points, because at the moment they don't even seem to be able to score any points. You know, it's basically down to Aston Martin, and that's about it, that can realistically score points. It's Q1, both AlphaTauris, both Alfa Romeos, Jack Doohan in the Haas, and I think Logan Sargent in the Williams, not making it through to Q2. So fairly standard stuff there. Not really a whole lot to say. Q2 goes around, and yep, looking pretty good at the moment. My pace seems fairly decent here once again. I don't know what it is, but these last couple of races, we've just had an uptick in performance. And yeah, Alonso's been going backwards a little bit. He announced his retirement a few races ago. He almost certainly will be retiring at the end of the season, because he's no longer in the contract like driver market anymore. So that, I think, pretty much is certain that he will be retiring. Unlike Hamilton, who was supposed to retire last season and then just didn't, but he did stay in the market, and he is also still in the market at the moment. So Hamilton may also not retire at the end of the season. We'll have to wait and see with that one. Alonso only just makes it through to Q3 there in P10. No real surprises out in Q2. De Vries and Iwasa, they seem to be the two that don't make it through. The Aston Martin is the 6th quickest on R&D anyway, so you expect them to go out. And you would expect maybe, you know, Iwasa and then also Russell. But Russell seems to outperform the car a little bit, and De Vries in the Mercedes just doesn't quite have the pace, so he gets knocked out there in P11 and Q2. And then here we are in Q3. So I've done one fast lap on some older tyres, and now we're doing the lap time on new tyres. We're currently sitting P10, as you can see, but that is to be expected with old tyres, as we get a little bit of a wiggle through that corner. And as you can see, Alonso only P8, so still not really performing as much as I would have hoped. Fernando Alonso, I don't know what's happened to him. The start of the season, he was really up there, getting constant podiums and doing a really good job. He was a considerable amount ahead of us in the championship. We've now overtaken him in the Drivers' Championship, and he just seems to be falling off a little bit in this latter half of the season, when we are starting to actually find some form. So very interesting how that's going on. But as you can see, we are improving quite a lot on this lap, half a second almost up already as we come through the final sector here. We are going to improve our lap time, but how much further up the order can we put it? Can we get it ahead of Alonso? Is that just about where the car sits, despite being second on R&D with everyone so close? Are we just a little bit off the ultimate pace, or at least in quali pace. Maybe we have better race pace. I have to wait and see as we cross the line. And sure enough, it is only P8 for us, so it's not an amazing qualifying. 8th for us, 9th for Alonso, so we beat Alonso in qualifying once again. And it's Lewis Hamilton back on pole position, so that is good for him. He's had a few bad races here. He's going to be back on pole for the sprint race here in Texas, and alongside him is Lando Norris. Let's see how this sprint race goes.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Sainz, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Davies, Fernando Alonso, Russell, De Vries, Iwasa, Gasly, Ocon, Liam Lawson, Albon, Joe, Sargent, Bottas, Doohan, Magnussen, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
It's time to go racing in the final sprint of the season for the United States Grand Prix Sprint. It's lights out and away we go from P8. Tsunoda gets a bad start. Both Ferraris actually having a bad start, with Leclerc also there just ahead of us. We get past him. We're getting fought a little bit by Verstappen, who gets past, and Alonso actually, my teammate, alongside us through turn 1, but we've just about managed to stay ahead. But Verstappen's had a good start. He, well actually no, was he ahead of us? Yeah, no, he was ahead of us, so he actually hasn't had a very good start, but he is still ahead of us. And we're on the medium tyres, as you can see. We're trying a medium tyre, and so is Alonso actually. A lot of others on the softs. It's a fairly even split actually of softs and mediums, but we're going for the mediums. We might not quite have the pace at the start of this sprint, only 10 laps, but hopefully by the end we will have a little bit more pace, and it was the preferential strategy. It also means that we save a set of softs for the race, which might also come in handy. So let's see how this goes for us. Currently sitting in P6. It's a McLaren 1-2 at the moment, because as you can see, Hamilton has not had a good start from pole position. He's already down to P4, so he's lost 3 positions, or 4 positions, I guess 3 positions technically, from the start, and he is now down in 4th place, already off the podium. It is, I think, Lando Norris from Oscar Piastri, the 2 McLarens out front, then Carlos Sainz up in 3rd place. He had a pretty good qualifying, out-qualifying his teammate Max Verstappen once again, getting into some good form is Carlos Sainz, so let's see if he can get a good result here. Then it's Hamilton, Verstappen the top 5, followed by myself. Alonso's up to P7 just behind me, so he's also doing a pretty good job. We've both had a good start. As we continue on here, lap number 2, there's yellow flags ahead, and that's Lewis Hamilton. That is Hamilton with an engine failure. His engine goes up in smoke. We get stuck because Verstappen kind of just sits behind Hamilton. We can't overtake Verstappen because under yellow flags we would have had to give the position back. So we end up losing quite a bit of time to the top 3, but that is Lewis Hamilton out of this race. What a dismal, he was finally looking like maybe getting back on form with a pole position here, and he's out of the sprint, which means he'll be starting from the very back for the Grand Prix as well. That could be big for the championship fight. Speaking of fighting, Nick De Vries has just gotten himself past Fernando Alonso. So Alonso was looking good, but now is starting to fall back from us a little bit. Further back as well, outside the points, but still just on the fringes of the top 10. We have that is Pierre Gasly going for a move on, I believe, Liam Lawson in the Haas, who's had a pretty good start here actually, and is sitting in a decent position at the moment. No points, but still for that Haas, who haven't scored any points, not this season. I don't think they scored any points last season either. Looking to at least get close to the points for the Grand Prix today. As we continue on, we're now in 5th, of course, with Hamilton's retirement. Verstappen's ahead of us. He's managed to just about break DRS, so proving a little bit difficult to keep up with him in these early stages. The top 3 though, and this is them there, have kind of scattered away a little bit after that issue for Hamilton, kind of, you know, giving myself and Verstappen a little bit of trouble. It is still Norris from Piastri. These guys both on the medium compound tyres, and then Sainz is on the softs in 3rd, so he might have hoped that he'd gotten ahead of these guys, because towards the end of this race he's going to lose pace. Further down the order, and we have got an Aston Martin of George Russell making a move on, I believe, Esteban Ocon there. They're side by side through this whole little section here, and that is Russell through on the Alpine and up another position. As you can see, we've now caught up to Verstappen on lap number 8. His soft tyres starting to wear out, and we're going to have a look, but he goes defensive into turn 1, but that's going to push him out wide. We're going to try and see if we can get a cutback on him down here. Down the hill we go. We have a better run. We're going to be around the outside, but we just wash a little bit too wide. He can take a tighter line, and I'm not going to try and go side by side with him into this section. We're just going to sit behind and wait for the next DRS zone, which is down this massive back straight here. As we deploy the ERS, we are now in the DRS zone as well. We're going to just try and boost past Verstappen as quickly as we can. He goes defensive to the inside, but we're going to shove ourselves even further to the inside on the brakes into the corner. A little bit of contact, wheel-to-wheel contact, no damage between us going down into the braking zone. Kind of moved across into us there as we made the move, but we are now up into P4 and ahead of Max Verstappen. As Fernando Alonso is now trying to get back on terms with Nick de Vries. He lost the position a few laps ago, but now Alonso on the mediums has better tyre wear than de Vries on the softs, but de Vries is fighting this one pretty well, and he actually stays ahead going into the S's section, so pretty good driving from Nick de Vries here when his teammate is out of this race with the mechanical failure. But it's not going to take long. It's pretty much going to be the same story as us and Verstappen, where down the back straight, Fernando Alonso will breeze past de Vries in DRS and will not look back. So in the end, he's going to finish a pretty respectable position. A bit further back as well, and we have another battle between, I think this is Yuma Iwasa, Logan Sargent, and Esteban Ocon as they go 3 wide into that corner there. It is pretty tense right now. Russell, is it Russell or is it Iwasa? I'm not sure. It might be Russell actually, trying to go for that move, and whichever driver it is in the Aston Martin gets 2 positions in 1 corner, so that is pretty good for him. As now on the final lap, the McLarens have pulled away from Sainz, but now Piastri is attacking his teammate on the final lap of this race. He wants to win this sprint race and be on pole position for the Grand Prix. Piastri now on the inside. He's ahead of Norris, but Norris is not giving this up. He's led the whole race, and he's not going to be overtaken by his teammate right on the last lap. They're still side by side, fighting each other. What a great battle this is between the 2 teammates, but Norris manages to stay ahead of Piastri. Great racing from both of them, amazing defensive driving from Norris, and he's going to go ahead to win this race. Sorry, my phone just dinged. I forgot to put it on silent. I'm sorry about that. We're going to come home in P4 in the end. We just about managed to break away from Verstappen. It's not a sprint podium, but it is a P4 finish. Sainz with P3 as well, so that's good for him. He hasn't had a podium this season. So he finally gets at least a sprint podium. So good work from Carlos Sainz. We get driver of the day for our drive from P8 to P4. Alonso ends up P6. So all in all, I think after qualifying, pretty decent result from Alonso and from the team. We're in a pretty good position for the main Grand Prix. So let's see what happens there. It is a McLaren 1-2 though well, for the grid, for the main race. So let's see what happens at the United States Grand Prix.
Here we are then in one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, the fabulous Austin in the great state of Texas. The circuit itself, 14 miles southeast of the city centre, has been home to the US Grand Prix since 2012, the latest in a long list of iconic tracks to have that honour. We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, where 20 corners and speeds of up to 200 miles per hour await us on this magnificent racetrack. It's 60% full throttle with plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and the long back straight into turn 12. What a race we have in store today. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and Oscar Piastri completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Davies, Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, de Vries, Tsunoda, Iwasa, Liam Lawson, Russell, Ocon, Sargent, Albon, Doohan, Bottas, Magnussen, Leclerc, Joe, Stroll, Gasly, and Lewis Hamilton rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham. Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc?
Can we begin by having a chat about Charles Leclerc?
They need to win in order to ensure they stay in contention for the championship. Anything outside that, and their fate is no longer in their hands.
The key now will be to keep the right mindset. We've seen time and again that things go wrong if they just try to do the minimum. Not necessarily because of the pressure, but because it's different to their usual approach. They'll need to avoid that and stay focused today.
That wasn't correct from what they were saying there. Charles Leclerc does not need to win this race to stay in the championship. There are still 2 rounds to go after this, and he is close enough that he does not have to win. Don't even know if he has to score points to still be in the championship. But anyway, let's get going. Piastri gets a good start and actually leads because Norris had a terrible start. Verstappen has gone around the outside of us into turn 1. It's a great start for Max Verstappen. So we are up to 3rd, but Verstappen has gotten ahead of us. But it's a great start for Piastri. It is not a good start, like I said, for Lando Norris. Did not have a great launch off the grid from pole position, but it is a McLaren in 1st place on the mediums as well. So a lot of other drivers here on the softs. But Piastri is on the medium compound tyres, so he could be pretty vulnerable, pretty susceptible to an overtake from Max Verstappen, who still, let's just remind ourselves, has not won a race since season 1. I'm not sure what race it was. I think he's only won 3 races or something in this entire career mode, and he has not won since season 1. He had a podium in Spain this season. That was his first podium since season 1. No podiums in season 2, but still no race wins since season 1, about halfway through, I believe. So Verstappen is going to try all he can to get another race win here today, but we're going to give him a run for his money because it's been a good start for us. Piastri will also be in the mix here, but he is on a different strategy, starting on those medium compound tyres. I think we've got a Mercedes behind us, so that must be Nick De Vries, who I guess has also had a pretty damn good start here. Yes, it is. De Vries up to P4. That's about as high as he's ever been up in a race in his entire career, not just at Mercedes, just in his entire career. So De Vries may be a factor in this one as well. As we have a look at the start from Carlos Sainz, he had a great qualifying, he had a great sprint race, but he had a terrible start to this race, and then he made contact with Lando Norris through turn 1. That's broken his front wing. He's had to come into the pits for a wing change. Terrible start to this main Grand Prix for the Red Bull driver. Lando Norris tried to make up for his moves, his bad start straight away, going for a move on Fernando Alonso on lap 1 down the main straight, and gets that move on Alonso, so that now puts him up into P5, but it's still a very low position considering where he started this race. Yuki Tsunoda is also trying to make some moves here. It looks like he also didn't have a very good start because he's fallen behind one of the Alpines, but has now gotten past that car again and can now chase after the Aston Martin. As then we continue on here just behind Piastri and Verstappen, who are showing pretty good pace, especially Piastri on those medium tyres, showing good pace at the moment, managing to keep a good gap to Verstappen and myself. So getting a little bit tricky for us here. We're getting into a little bit of no man's land because De Vries doesn't seem to quite have the pace of us, and he's falling back into the clutches of Norris and Alonso. Speaking of that battle, Lando Norris now, you can see the gap already on lap number 6 here, is going for the move. He fakes to the inside but goes to the outside on Nick De Vries, and is going to try and get this move done round the outside of that left-hand corner. It's almost a hairpin, but not quite, and Norris gets up into P4, I believe that is. So Norris on a charge after his terrible start from pole position. Further back, and this is Leclerc. This is the championship battle here. They're both out of the points, but Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are now fighting each other on track. Hamilton, of course, started at the back because he had a mechanical failure in the sprint. Leclerc took a grid penalty, but Leclerc has gotten past Hamilton. That is big. Leclerc, I mean, he doesn't need to finish ahead of Hamilton for this particular race. However, that will help him massively in the championship if he can do so. And at the moment, he's doing everything he needs to, working his way through the order. We are still kind of sat here behind Verstappen and Piastri, losing a little bit of time to them. I mean, we're still there or thereabouts. We're not losing too much, but I decided to come in 1 lap earlier than expected. We're going to have to go onto the hard compound tyres because we don't have a set of mediums. We used our mediums for the sprint race. So it's hard tyres for us to the end of the race, but I think they can go to the end, no worries at all. And going one lap earlier, I'm hoping maybe we can get a bit of an undercut on mainly Verstappen, because Piastri's probably going to be on a bit of a different strategy starting on the mediums. And here we go, we get past Norris in the pits, but we were ahead of him anyway. Verstappen though does stay ahead of us, so he comes in 2 laps, 1 lap, maybe 1 lap actually after us. And he does actually still stay ahead of us, so we haven't really gained as much as I would have hoped. Piastri then eventually comes into the pits and just comes out ahead of Lando Norris, his teammate. Norris though is on the medium compound tyres and Piastri is on the hards, so this could be interesting. Piastri was leading this race. He is now in, I believe, 3rd place as Verstappen leads, and this is Leclerc still trying to make his way through, trying to get past, I believe that's Alexander Albon in the Williams at this point in time. Can't quite make it past at that point, but now as we head down the main straight, he's going to go to the outside. There's a couple of cars ahead of him running in fairly good positions at the moment. Albon though wants to score points here because he's right on the edge of points right now. He's going to try and fight back on Leclerc, but Leclerc will get ahead of him in that Ferrari. And now this is Liam Lawson, who's overtaking Valtteri Bottas for, I believe, P9 in this race. These guys are legitimately up in the points, a Haas and an Alfa Romeo, and Lawson up into P9. He's looking to score his first points in Formula 1 here today in America for the American team. Bottas was looking to score some points for Alfa Romeo here as well, but Leclerc's going to spoil the party there, go up the inside of the fin into that corner. Bottas will fight this one though with the Ferrari driver because he wants to try and keep his hopes alive of scoring another point for Alfa Romeo this season, but unfortunately Leclerc gets past and that boots Bottas into P11. And now Leclerc is going to try and go for this move on Lawson, and it's going to be an easy move because it's down the back straight, and that's now Leclerc up into P9. Lawson though still in the top 10, currently sitting 10th, so he could still score a vital point for Haas. As ahead of us there's a yellow flag, and that's Max Verstappen. He spun around the final corner. He was leading the race here. He was looking at a race win. He was quicker than us. We weren't catching him. Piastri's now out of the session. I think there's been contact behind, and we have a safety car. We have a safety car in Austin. Verstappen's got a 5-second penalty. This is what happened. So he comes around to the final corner and just takes the corner a little bit too much speed, spins the car around, ends up sideways on the curb. We come past. Piastri though goes straight into Verstappen's car and destroys his car in the process. This is a disaster for both of them, but especially for Verstappen, because I think he was going to possibly quite easily win this. I mean, we might have had a bit of pace towards the end on the hards, but at that point in time, Verstappen was a bit quicker than us on the mediums. He was out of DRS range, and he could have very easily won this race. But unfortunately, he's spun around. He's got a 5-second penalty. He's down the order. Piastri's out of the race. He's out of contention, the driver that was leading at the start. And the other McLaren, it's a terrible day for McLaren now, because after a 1-2 in the sprint, Norris has to come in for a front wing change, so he's now down the order as well. This is crazy at the end of this race. So it is now us leading the way as we head off after the safety car. And it's De Vries. Nick De Vries is now in 2nd place and Alonso is 3rd. So we're now looking at a possible double podium for TGL Motorsport. As we head into turn 1, just try and keep the cars behind. Lando Norris though is on fresh tyres. He's got his new front wing. He hasn't fallen as far down the order as expected, and he's trying to get a move done on Sainz and one of the Alpines just ahead, but it is Sainz and I think it might be Ocon fighting each other right now. Actually, I think it might be Gasly. I don't know. It's one of the Alpines. Sainz is fighting with one of the Alpines. It's been a pretty woeful race for Sainz, but he is still looking to score some points. It is Ocon, I believe. And Sainz does get ahead of Esteban Ocon, but Lando Norris is he's a shark behind these guys there on the fresh compound tyres. And is it right now where he is going to make a move? Yes, it is. It's going to be 3 wide as they go into turn 1. It is Norris on the inside of, I believe that was Albon, and now Sainz behind Albon, and Norris is making some pretty good moves, pretty good progress in this race. And it gets worse for Verstappen as on the penultimate lap he spins again. This time he's far enough off the track that nobody's going to hit him, but what a woeful turnaround of a weekend it has been for Max Verstappen, as just behind as that was happening, Charles Leclerc trying to make his way through and score some vital points for the championship here. He overtakes Iwasa. I think that might have been under yellow flags, but he didn't get a penalty for it, so I don't know what that was all about. But that is very big for Leclerc in this championship battle when Hamilton is way down the order and doesn't seem to have the pace. I don't know what's going on. He might have a car issue, but he is way down the order. As we head on to the final lap of this race, it is very close between myself. De Vries is keeping up with us on those medium tyres, and then Alonso's keeping up as well on the hards, and it's basically us three at the front. Everyone else is a bit too far behind, as Norris still trying to make moves up the inside of Iwasa through turn 1. Iwasa is going to try and fight as they head into the S's, and he is going to get a pretty good run on the inside. They're going to go side by side through these first couple of S's, but Norris will get ahead, and we'll see if he can chase down the Ferraris for a better position, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. For us though, we are defending all our might from De Vries in this final lap, and as we round the final corner, we are going to win the race. It's back-to-back victories for us. P1 for us in America, it's P3 for Alonso, so it's a double podium for TGL Motorsport, and Nick De Vries gets his first podium in Formula 1, P2 for him. Very good drive, and it's a very good recovery for Leclerc as well. The two Ferraris finishing 4th and 5th.
It wasn't always plain sailing today, but it was a very important win nonetheless. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
A show-stopping performance from the three drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
What a race that was. We win the United States Grand Prix, back-to-back victories from Japan and here. And it's pretty cool seeing Nick De Vries up there. I'm not going to lie, in second place. He didn't quite have the pace early on, but in the final part of that race, he had pretty good medium tyres. The safety car definitely helped him out with his tyre wear there, and he stayed right there with us. He got within about 2.5 tenths on the final lap, but couldn't get past us. It's a great result for him though, and it's a great result for the team. Alonso, after not looking particularly great in the last few races, is finally back up on the podium again there in 3rd place, and I think it's the first time this season that both of us are on the podium together, so that is always nice to see. We scored the most points for the weekend all round as well, with a decent result in the sprint as well. Here are the main Grand Prix finishing order. Like I said, the Ferraris finished 4th and 5th, so a very good recovery from Leclerc to go from P18 to P5. What a result that was, with Hamilton all the way down in I think P12 or 13. Must have had a car issue because he just did not have the pace. And that's really spicing up the Drivers' Championship here. Leclerc is now 13 points away from Hamilton in this title fight. He could snatch it back right at the end. Hamilton has led this championship since round 1 in Bahrain. Can Leclerc take it away? We've now jumped up to P4 and are still somewhat in the hunt here. I mean, it would take a big old miracle to win this championship now, but we are still just about there, right behind Norris actually, only like 2 points behind him. And we also move up to P3 in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes down to P4. So it's all very tight, and Haas, I didn't even mention Haas, score 1 point with 2 points, with Liam Lawson finishing P9. What a result from him. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.